Let's start. She's advocate Rama Sarode, advocate Vaishali Bhagwat, our author. Yeah, 5 people. Yeah. So, create more female role models. That is where we started 8 years ago. We had a lot of women, wanting to join. But when I started going at the root cause of, why they are not able to come up, I saw a lot of single women, lot of new things happening, and I felt very helpless. So I started going into the root, and I realized a lot of root causes are in the marriage itself, lot of things, which are kind of not coming up together. I always used to ask my mother that, Mom, why all these roles in the family are taken for granted? Why, a person who becomes a husband or a father or a mother does not undergo any training, education and some exam or certification? Why by default everyone is eligible, to become mother, father and, without prior experience? For any other job, you go, people ask you, ये पहले काम किया है क्या, कहाँ किया है, कहीं से सीखा है क्या? लेकिन all the roles in family are taken for granted. That is something which I always feel that, anything where you are formally, officially trained, you can do better. It can be any role, whether it is mother or father. So we started researching more on this and looking at, problems, causes and impact, and this is so diverse. There are so many variables that only thing that came to my mind is mathematics and data science. And what we are working on is trying to see how we can solve this problem using machine learning and data science. Can we learn from the past experiences? Can we learn from the past success or failed marriages? Can we find all the factors, which are there and the variables are very high? Can we study them? Can we understand the patterns? Can we see if there is a correlation? Can we burst myths? Because there are a lot of myths also. So with this objective, we started working on this project where we are trying to solve the problem. It's a huge problem. So we thought, in the school we are taught, right, prevention is better than cure. So I said, let's start with proactive and preventive approach. So let's target the people who are going to get married. Let's try to improve their success rate or probability of failure. And that is the first thing which we have decided to do. And for that we are doing a lot of surveys. We are learning through various existing, stories, books and all kind of training material. And that is where I came across Kalyani's 24 case studies. So our objective is to do a machine learning model, simple. So we have gathered here because we need help from domain experts like psychologists, lawyers, HR and everyone who is directly or indirectly related to this profession. So we will discuss more on how we will solve this problem. There are multiple approaches, but let's first understand the problem. So Kalyani has done a lot of research in this area. She was, as you know, she was reporting in the family court, and she has very closely seen a lot of stories. So I invite her to share a small background of her bookmaking, and then we'll start with a panel discussion which will be led by Kalyani herself. And we have a chief guest here, Shweta Shalini ma'am. She has done a lot of work in this area. She has a lot of bigger picture than what we have, So we are hoping that she will be able to guide us and give us some more direction on what we can do. Because there are a lot of tracks when we start talking about reducing success failure rate. People say, "Aaj koi shaadi nahi karna chahta hai, living in is the next trend." Fine, but it's not going to become 0%. Maybe 20-25 years it will change. It has changed 1%, 2%. Maybe it will become 10% non-marriage. But it's going to be there for next 25 years. So let's see what we can do about it. But the objective of this session is to understand the problem. So Kalyani is going to share us all her insights from all the deep research which she has done. So I welcome Kalyani, who is the author of this book, When Love is Lost. 24 case studies from the real world divorce cases. So welcome Kalyani.
Thank you, Suchita. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
You know, I prepared this speech, but I don't think we're going to need it. We're going to have a far more interactive
But I think for
session.
recording it will be good.
All right.
Maybe you can take it in the hand. She can sit also. You want to sit or come?
I'm good. I'm good. A wise man once said, "You can tell a lot about a society by the way it treats its women." A wiser one would have said, "You can tell a lot more if you consider the way men and women treat each other, especially when relationships head south and the expected happy endings fail to materialize." Namaskar everyone. I really appreciate you taking time off from your busy schedules on a Sunday at that and being with us here today. And to make it more meaningful, we will have a discussion that is interactive with a lot of give and take from the audience. We have a whole lot of very erudite panelists here, very experienced men and women with a great deal to offer in terms of insight and information. So I hope this is going to be a good evening ahead. The data scientists here will understand patterns and behavioral analytics better than most. The data in my book points to certain changing behaviors that affect us all as a society, which is why we are here today. My book is only a microcosm of what is happening around us, but I was careful to select cases that were representative of different reasons for divorce, our changing priorities as a society, and the ever-widening rift between men and women. I have deliberately chosen to concentrate on the last 20-25 years in urban India in this particular edition of the book, though the next edition will hopefully be a bigger book with a more comprehensive take. However, today I will also include the cases that finally did not make it to the book due to lack of consent. Why did I write this book? Being a journalist, real life stories have always fascinated me far more than fictional characters. The lives of real men and women teach us, inspire us, and resonate with us in a way that fiction never could. So the idea for When Love is Lost was first seeded in the time I spent covering the family courts as part of my beat as a reporter for various national dailies. Given that the family is the bedrock of a society, my editor felt it was worth delving into the complex nature of all domestic relationships, whether matrimony, live-ins, or even LGBTQ relationships, especially when they show up for the final reckoning in the family courts of India. An institution that bears new testimony to an unparalleled range of truths, from the heart-rending and touching to the cruel, bizarre, and sometimes inadvertently funny. An institution whose walls could tell stories that outdo any soap opera writer's imagination. I do know this for a fact. The first case I covered was in 2008, and it was that of a live-in partner suing their ex. Yes, the jurisdiction of the family court even extends to cover live-in relationships. At that point in time, he was charged with rape because having a sexual relationship with someone on a false premise counted as rape. The second story that I did was on how marriages between people under the age of 30, particularly of those in the field of IT, were ending by mutual consent. Quite the buzzword then, the magic pill to put all marriages marital grievances to sleep. Divorce by mutual consent is faster, less expensive, and less emotionally draining than contested divorces. Couples can typically complete the process in 6 to 18 months rather than years of court battles. It also allows both parties a modicum of dignity and privacy, avoiding the very public tamasha that comes with contested proceedings. This clean, clinical approach seemed perfect for a generation that valued efficiency above all else. I remember a caustic comment being made by a court officer. He said to me, you know, Ajkal, since nothing much is invested in the first place, nothing much is lost. And that comment, you know, it stayed with me. It continues to disturb me, and I don't really agree. Because to my mind, ending any marriage is just about as easy as separating flesh from bone, no matter what the circumstances. As I delved deeper and my chakkars to the family court became more frequent, I saw and observed how nasty custody battles can actually get. You know, the most awful charges that estranged spouses can make against their partner just to ensure that the kids don't go to the other parent for the summer vacations. This includes charges of child sexual abuse. It could go to that extent. How so-called counseling simply meant a division of materialistic goods. Who gets the pots, the pans, the furniture, the properties, and yes, even who gets to keep the family cat or dog. How women, especially those who came of age post-1991, post-liberalization, post-cable TV, many of them were raised to be professionals rather than wives. And they were told that you can pretty much be anything that you want, but the reality check was something else. And I realized that men in general were genuinely puzzled and astonished when it came to dealing with these women. They don't quite know where they stand or what to expect. And from therein stems something called the men's rights movement. How many of you have heard of the men's rights movement in India? I mean, the lawyers. Well, as it stands, men's rights movement in India as it is existing today depends a lot upon women winning or losing. Something like an algorithm, you know, like a reactive algorithm. I mean, they see empowered, educated women as the enemy and feminism as the great bugbear of our society. Starting off in the 90s in Kolkata with the Pidito Purush, then to the Patni Atyachar Virodhi Samaj in Lucknow, and then there was another organization that came up in Mumbai. It has gone from strength to strength. They have one point agenda to sort of tell the world that men have it bad. And their great enemy are the legal wins made by women, especially section 498A of the Indian Penal Code, which they believe is draconian. That is not so in reality. Rama and I were chatting about this yesterday. Technically speaking, 498A criminalizes relationships and puts an entire family behind bars just based on one complaint. But that is not how it plays out in reality. It's far more complicated. But the perception is that it is draconian, and there is no doubt there is a modicum of misuse. What's more, it does not actually bring any remedy for the woman. On the other hand, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 is a far more balanced and rational act because it provides for mediation, counseling, protection, monetary relief, all the while ensuring that the family unit does not fall apart. So it is more stable, it is less reactive, and definitely something that should be used far more than it is being used currently. That is one thing I noticed. Also, I noticed that the data is telling of things that we thought had been solved. For example, dowry. Now, I think earlier this year, all of us were shaken up by the Vaishali Bhagwat case. Here was a bright and beautiful girl of 2023, of just 23, and she married in the year 2023, and with the world and everything in it stretching out before her, she chose to marry somebody she loved, and then we know how it turned out. And it was so shocking. A 23-year-old girl, educated, marrying somebody she loved, and something like this happening in Maharashtra. आपण म्हणतो आपला महाराष्ट्र पुरोगामी आहे. हा सावित्रीबाई फुलेंचा महाराष्ट्र आहे, हा राणी लक्ष्मीबाईंचा महाराष्ट्र आहे. हे प्रश्न तर आपण खूप पहिले सोडवलं असावं असं आपल्याला म्हणजे वाटणं म्हणजे अगदी स्वाभाविकच असेल, पण तसं नाही आहे. मी तुम्हाला काही स्टॅटिस्टिक्स वाचून दाखवते, which shows that education is not necessarily the great wave that uplifts every boat. According to the 2006 Rural Economic and Demographic Survey (REDS), dowry was paid in 95% of marriages between 1960 and 2008. Dowry per marriage often amounts to several years of household income and imposes a substantial burden on girls' families. And as we know, it is prevalent in all major religious groups across India. Here's an interesting paradox. Kerala, despite its image of being a very evolved and educated state, exhibits stark and persistent dowry inflation since the 1970s and has the highest average dowry in recent years. Other states with inflationary trends are Haryana, Punjab and Gujarat. Maharashtra is somewhere in between. I mean, here we are proud of the fact that in India, marriage is traditionally seen as a sacred, inviolable bond. You get married to stay married. We pride ourselves on our low divorce rates. At 1.1% annually, we are possibly amongst the lowest in the world. And yet, the quantum leap of petitions before the family courts. I shall just read out further data to support this point. UN reports clearly indicate that since the advent of the millennium, the number of divorces in India have gone up twofold. Here I will cite statistics over just 3 years to showcase this fact. In 2021, 4.97 lakh cases. In 2022, 7.27 lakh cases. In 2023, 8.25 lakh cases. By the end of 2023, over 1.14 million cases were pending before the family courts of the country. On average, that translates to approximately 2,200 to 2,300 new cases filed every day across the country. The cognitive dissonance here is striking for any analyst. What's more, if our low dowry rate is a fact, so too are India's high cases of domestic violence and dowry harassment. According to recent data shared by the National Crime Records Bureau, an average of 20 Indians kill themselves daily due to a feeling of being trapped in bad marriages. How and why is this happening? Demands further study, right? From irreconcilable differences to changing norms, refusal of empowered women to stick on with abusive relationships as they traditionally did, and sometimes even the misuse of the legal mechanisms by different parties, the reasons for divorce are varied and complicated. Thus, when love is lost, Cases from the Family Courts of a Changing India is clearly a book whose time has come. a first of its kind relationship guide with the law as a cornerstone, recommended for anyone interested in human relationships, particularly marriage. In a nutshell, the format combines emotional first-person narratives with legal insight. It was a deliberate decision to avoid a so-called objective audit because there are enough legal articles, websites and platforms for that. Because divorce is very much an emotional journey, not just a legal process. And emotions, as you data professionals know, are the hardest variables to quantify. The cases listed in the first section range from adultery to bigamy, fraud, violence, dowry, to plain old incompatibility. The second section of the book has mediators, lawyers and counselors weighing in on the battles worth fighting and those not. Some cases will resonate, some will jar, and hopefully each one will make readers ponder over the difference between what they should compromise on and what they shouldn't. In a country where the legal system is still coming to grips with incompatibility and irretrievable breakdown of marriage as grounds for divorce, it's useful perspective to have. Beyond individual stories, When Love is Lost offers valuable legal knowledge on divorce laws, Domestic Violence Act, and child custody disputes in India. As I wrote the book, I realized that the journey was exposing me not just to the pits of human behavior, but also to the unexpected grace and dignity shown by those under great pressure. That human behavior is complex, nuanced, and difficult to predict. That the relationships that look picture perfect on paper may not be so in reality. That the impact social media and pop culture have on young minds is all too real, and that it is so important to take crucial decisions with blinkers off. That men hurt as much as women do. Pain doesn't show up differently based on gender. That while love may be lost, the quest for dignity and justice should never be. Perhaps premarital counseling should be the rule rather than the exception. Because just as you train for a career, so too it is an idea worth considering to enter marriage with a realistic lay of the land. However, what you, the readers, may take away from the book is likely to be as diverse as the cases themselves. Friends, as I conclude, I want to emphasize that this book isn't just about broken marriages or failed relationships. It's about understanding the behavioral patterns that drive human connection in our rapidly changing society. The stories within these pages reveal that behind every statistic is a human being trying to navigate love, loss, and everything in between. And perhaps, in understanding these patterns better, we can build more empathetic, more equitable relationships for the future. The data is definitely telling of one fact. Marriage as an institution has changed. Will it survive? I think that's the subject of our panel discussion today, amongst other things. With that, I thank you for giving me your time and patience. Thank you all. Thank you. May I call the chief guest and the panelists for today to come up on stage, and we'll have a small little book launch, a little formality to be completed.
So with this, I invite all the panelists and over to you.
Really great.
Shall we start? My first question would be to the lawyers on this panel, Rama, Vaishali, Vivek. You all are out there battling the storm each and every day. And before we begin, I would like you to share your insights on how marriage as an institution has changed. Before we get into the specifics of domestic violence and dowry.
Hello, good evening everyone. So, marriage as an institution has definitely changed over a period of time. One of the things that I observe in the cases that I handle is that most of the time the expectations that they have about each other or their role as husband and wife are not discussed. The fact that, premarital counseling should be made mandatory is not so. And it's not just about the couple. I think it also is about the family involved and the interference of the family involved. And who is influencing them to be in that marriage or not to be in that marriage is a bigger factor that I see. And I totally agree when you say that, I work a lot with couples to see if I can get them to settle it amicably. I tell them that it's an irreversible process most of the time. So if you want to try out all options to come together and sort out your differences, please do that. And only if you can't do that, let's try and settle it amicably. However, not all marriages end up settling amicably, and there is a huge legal battle. And even when they are settling it amicably, I wouldn't say that it is without trauma. Even when they are settling amicably, there is some amount of trauma, because nobody gets married with this thought that, we want to separate or we want to divorce. But there are circumstances that lead to it. And I totally agree that irretrievable breakdown has to be a ground, because I do see a lot of couples coming in saying, oh, my other partner is not agreeing for a mutual consent divorce, but I do not want to use a ground like cruelty against him or her, because there's no cruelty and it's just that this marriage is not working. But then we don't have that as a ground, and as lawyers we are left with no option but to look for the grounds that are available to us under the law. So it can be very distressing even for us. For them, and there are certain things that need to change with times, because relationships are changing, and I think we have to be aware of that fact and bring those changes in the interpretation.
Thank you, Rama, for setting the tone, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I think it's going to be a great book for all of us to read. I would like to bring in two perspectives. One, because I also specialize in online matrimonial frauds or online frauds, even if it comes to dating sites, and I see a lot of young people here, so it could perhaps of a little bit of relevance. But I think I would rather start by saying that equality is a very bookish definition, is what we see even in practice today. What it really means to be equal, it is not getting translated in practical scenarios. It is still, I think the mindset has to a large extent changed, that now the man in the house thinks that he needs to help or he needs to share an equal responsibility, but it is most of the times if he's told what to do. There's a difference, right, of owning a responsibility and then actually doing something that has been told. And I realized it when I was having a conversation with a young friend. I was traveling back and I was asking her, कसं असतं आता तुमच्या जनरेशनमध्ये? In our generation, things were different. And we had, even if we were working, household roles were by default ours. and we were very happy if our husband sort of pitched in and were, filled with gratitude because they did it for us. But how is it for you? So she said, I don't think things have really changed. And she said, I discovered it a little later because she said, I used to tell my husband, put on the washing machine. So for a woman, it's a full cycle, right? You put the washing machine, you take the clothes inside the washing machine out, put it for drying, and after the cycle ends, you put those clothes also for drying, is what is meant to me by put on the washing machine. But for my husband, or even a young husband, for young couples, put on the washing machine is put in the clothes, put in the soap, and put the button on. It's done. So that equality is not the real equality, and I think that mindset change will drive in the complexities, maybe is some solution to the complexities that we see. And quickly, just to talk about matrimonial frauds online, unfortunately they aren't even seen as matrimonial frauds because there is no domestic relationship, so Domestic Violence Act doesn't kick in, and if you go to the police, they are looked at as maybe financial violence or cheating or a financial fraud, and where the woman is devastated because of the emotional investment that she has made in a man online, not for a few months, sometimes these cases have gone on for years together. Thank you.
I would like to just say one thing, that the judicial system of our country definitely does not want any kind of breakups, any kind of this, and they're working very, very hard that each and every marriage is protected. So as we're discussing that breakup and this and that and this, that's the last resort. That's the last resort. So the judicial, because I work very closely with the judges, not only with the clients and with the district. So the approach of the highest judicial people, they are very clear that for India, marriage is sacrosanct. It's an institution, so we have to protect it. Come what may. Yes, we are growing, materialism is kicked in, those problems are there. So it's got to be a collective approach, how we have to look at this institution ahead in future. Let's discuss more points, and this is what I would like to say.
I have one question. We talked about equality. In a recent verdict, the Madras High Court ruled in favor of equal sharing of assets built during the duration of a marriage between a man and a woman. The fact that Indian law does not consider assets built during a marriage as belonging to both partners seems to be a little known fact. It is discovered usually in court, mostly by women, that he who owns the property, he who earns actually owns the property and not she who supports the home. So this is a big win for women, but something like this, coming so late in the day, what does it say about us?
That we are progressing slowly, but we are. Again, I think it's a very, when we talk about judiciary, it's a perspective of the people sitting there as well, so it's about how they see it, how they perceive it, and how they understand it. And I think although it's too late to get this judgment, the fact that we've got it is a good thing, that the homemakers have also contributed towards making that wealth, and the lady plays different roles is what the judge said, that she's a nurse, she's a teacher, she's a cook, and she's done so many things to contribute there. And this has been the demand of the women's group for very long, that domestic work is not considered as work because it's unpaid labor, and we need to change that. And I'm glad that Madras High Court was able to bring in that perspective in that case.
This is something that is not going to sit well with the men's rights movement. And sadly, they see women and feminism as the greatest enemy of all, something that is against the very fabric of Indian society, something that threatens to tear our traditional values apart. And here they are saying that as it is, the laws are skewed in favor of women. But like Rama and I were discussing yesterday, the reality is not how it seems. What would you like to say to that?
The men's rights movement.
So, yeah, I mean, there is this whole conception, or rather perception, I would say, that women misuse laws, and I think that discussion is hyped as compared to the kind of domestic violence or the kind of violence that women go through, because a lot of cases are not even reported. We are only talking of the numbers of the cases that go to the police station or are reported or go up to the court, and there are so many other cases that are not even reported. My opinion here is that any kind of a law can be misused, because it's the attitude and the approach that people have towards how they want to use or misuse a law. It could be a gender specific law, or it could be a gender neutral law, and we've seen laws being misused. So why just the discussion about women related laws? I also see a lot of generalization that happened, and while you did speak of Vaishali Bhagwat's case that very recently happened, I also want to talk about Atul Subhash case that was discussed a lot on all social media platforms. And it's very unfortunate that somebody like Atul Subhash had to end his life, and we have to take this very seriously, because any kind of a relationship and mental health is connected, especially when the relationship goes south. And we do not look at the interlinks that are there between laws, and we do not connect it to the emotional trauma that a man could go through or a woman could go through. But one of the things that I saw happening also is that I'm not on Facebook or Insta, I don't use it anymore, but I'm on LinkedIn, and I saw a lot of discussion about Atul Subhash case happening on LinkedIn, while there is no discussion about Vaishali Bhagwat's case on LinkedIn. And why is that? And the whole discussion that happened was about generalizing how women are bad totally. It's like all women are bad. But that's not true, because for people who have come from a non-legal background, let me tell you that a section like 498A is a cognizable offence, which means it's a serious offence and one has to take cognizance immediately. However, the Supreme Court has relaxed this, so there is no immediate arrest that happens now. There has been a Supreme Court judgment that has come long back, I think in 2012 or 2013, and there is no immediate arrest that happens. Although it's a non-bailable offence, that is, you don't get bail as a right, you get bail in 498A cases very easily these days. So there is no immediate arrest. The other data that we look at, or the argument that is done, is that the conviction rate is low and the acquittal rates are high. I agree. If you go by the NCRB data, that is the data that you see. That is also because this section is non-compoundable, which means that you cannot strike a compromise and withdraw the case. Just as you cannot do it in a rape case, just as you cannot do it in a case of murder. So what eventually happens in the courtroom is that because one person is not, or two people are not just fighting one 498A case. There is a divorce case that is going on, there is a maintenance case that is going on, there is a domestic violence case under the civil law that is going on. So there are multiple cases happening between two people. And when there is a compromise that happens, especially in the divorce cases, one of the settlement term is that all the other cases have to be withdrawn. Now, while you can withdraw a civil case, you cannot withdraw a case under 498A. And so, the judges told that, we want to compromise here, and then the woman has to go to the stand and she has to say that I filed this case in a fit of anger, or I was not in my senses when I filed this case. So it's almost like self-incrimination, and then it results in an acquittal. So let's not get fooled just by the statistics that we see on the NCRB website, because this is what is happening in the court. and that does not get reported. So might as well, and I have, after so many years of being in this area of working on family matters, I've come to a conclusion: why have criminal laws when it comes to family relationship? Because nobody wants to criminalize relationship, and that is not a solution that women are also looking for. From the time the domestic violence civil law has come, our office has not filed one single case of 498A, because I don't see any merit, I don't see any remedy for women in a section like 498A. And so I think we have to take everything with a pinch of salt. So I'm sure, the men's group are looking at it as a violation of their rights, because they don't have a counter section like 498A to file a case against the women. But we also have to consider who has better access to these institutions, who has the money to pay the lawyers, who has the access to step out of the house and file these cases, who has a better voice to talk about misuse or use of any law, and when we look at those things, then I definitely see that women have far lesser voice as compared to men, because let's agree that we are in a patriarchal society, and it's not just about family matters, it's about anything else that we talk about. Men do have a better voice than women have.
I think when we are talking of men's rights and vis-a-vis what women's rights are there available, I think we go back to the basics. It most of the times boils down to what is dignity of labor, because we also have not been able to identify housework as billable hours. Never. And even men don't like it when you put it that way. So when I talk to young women and I tell them, when you get married and this is the first apartment that you are buying, you insist that your name is on that, and don't feel guilty about it. It doesn't mean, because we have been conditioned to think that if you are going to ask for something which is of material value, you are not a nice girl. That is not a nice attribute to have, but it is a must attribute to have in today's times. If by choice you're going to stay at home and contribute to building a family, giving a certain balance to the family, where the man goes out and earns, and vice versa. If the man chooses to be at home and become a house husband, and you choose to go out and work, the property that you make together logically has to be 50-50%. It's science, there's science behind it, but we are unable to recognize that as mathematics or science or logic because of, as she said, a very deep-rooted patriarchal mindset that we had of a certain superior gender over an inferior one. And we all are guilty, not just the judiciary, because it also asks yourself the question, how much of, what is your belief in dignity of labor? How do you treat others who are maybe in your own mind working less or doing less professional work than you are? It could be our household help. So it's an ecosystem. So you can't just blame one part of the ecosystem and say, this is how the judiciary is looking at it, or this is how the law is looking at it. This is how we are looking at it, and that is the reflection that is coming in judgments and even in the legislation. Most of the times, if you speak to the women and say, what are the matrimonial assets that you have, they have also normalized it by saying, it is his property and not mine. It is his property, first house, second house, third house. My name is there on it, but it was just added maybe for convenience. So she also doesn't identify it as her property because she has been conditioned to believe it is not hers. And I think that is where men as well as women both need to understand that it is an organic way in which you build a family, where whatever contribution either of the spouse is doing has value and has equal value. There is no less. Housework is in no manner less. If you put a billable hour to that housework, it has to be exactly the same as the number of hours the man or the woman is putting outside of the house to earn that money. I think that if that mindset change, if we work on, most of the problems will be solved.
speaking of ownership of assets and recognition of labor, I think the reality is a long way off. There was this particular case in my book which was narrated to me in the first person by the person who was in the eye of the storm. This lady was a Stanford graduate, a South Bombay girl married into a very privileged business family in another city. This was in the 80s, and in those days, women of a certain strata were not expected to work, and this is what she said. And after 28 years of marriage, her husband came out as being of a different sexual orientation. So obviously now, there was no choice but to end the marriage, and she was told that the only way she is going to get any kind of financial justice, I mean, here is somebody, a Stanford graduate who's never worked a day in her life, and even being told by the father-in-law that, listen, that even the food that you have on your plate is thanks to me, and everything does not belong to your husband either, it belongs to me. So you can't legitimately ask for it. And she was told the only way that she could get anything of any modicum of equality would be to contest the divorce. But then she decided, she was 50 years old, she said, it's a sink or swim moment for me. I could either go ahead and contest the divorce and drag all those people who had been my family for 28 years through the mud, or I could choose to walk with dignity. So she chose to end it by mutual consent, during which, she did not even get a roof over her head and a pittance by way of a settlement. But she said, all right, this is a choice I've made, I'm educated, I have friends, I can take a green card, I can just go abroad and start working there. At the age of 50, for the first time in her life, she started working. I mean, here was somebody who had, the swankiest of cars and foreign trips at her disposal, having to count pennies. What a tough situation. But she really handled it like a champ, and luckily, she also had friends and she also had contacts. But not every woman is thus privileged. So, what would you like to say about contested divorces and how foul can actually get?
Contested divorces. I would first make a brief comment here that we're talking about men's rights and women's rights. Let me say one thing, that law is very clear. Rights are rights and they're equal for everyone. I think that was taught to us in class 8 civics. Rights are for everyone, whether it is a man or a woman or anybody else. So I'll just start from here. Now, coming to contested divorces, yes, they do get ugly. Yes, they do get ugly. Very painful, emotionally straining. All those things are there. But I think overall it needs a holistic approach, so that solutions can be drawn at the earliest, and society should intervene. Now, me being a lawyer, me talking like this, I don't want to get into legal intricacies here, because legal intricacies will get complex. We were discussing Madras High Court decision right now, but I'll just say one thing. There are Supreme Court judgments which differ from that judgment.
Yes.
So again, we are not debating law here. We are sitting here as a group of a society, so that institute of marriage can be discussed. So I think contested divorces, yes, they are painful. So the best way, in a short way, is to try and sort it out amicably, socially, and if not possible, yes, with judicial intervention. I am again saying, none of the judges, right from the district level to High Court and the Supreme Court, they want a divorce. That's what I'll defend.
Shweta, you've not really spoken, rather we haven't given you a chance to speak, but you are such a storehouse of information, given that you travel and meet so many different people and have an insight into the way social systems are changing that few others do. So what would you like to speak?
Thank you so much. I thought I was really not required on the panel. But let me tell you, Kalyani ji, if I would have gotten the invite from either you or anybody from the panel, I would have declined this. Because of Sucheta ji, when I got this invite, and I know the background that she comes from, and when you talk about data, then, and I actually told Sucheta ji that I'm not coming before I read the book. And after I read the book, I'm extremely thankful that I came here. And the reason why I say this is, and thank you Vivek ji for just saying this, I've been wanting to say this for some time. I think we want to do this kind of research, this kind of analysis, because we believe in the institution of marriage. And we are discussing this because we want to upkeep it. That's the first thing. So let's keep this in mind, that I personally speak for myself. I'm a firm believer of the institution of marriage. Second, Kalyani ji, with total and due respect, for a title called When Love is Lost, I'm also a firm believer of the fact that love can never be lost. Because it is not love that binds a husband and a wife. Please. Love is what binds you with your child. Love is what binds you with your mom. Love is what binds you with your God. But definitely, I think every successful marriage is a marriage. And in Muslim law, every marriage is a contract, right? Every successful marriage is a marriage that works on partnership. Now when we talk about equality, we've heard the definition of equality and all of that. I personally feel that it is not love that binds. It could be between husband and wife, it could be attraction, it could be lust, it could be termed as respect for all that you know. And that could be attraction, could be admiration, but it's definitely not love. So the fact is, when we talk about this partnership, there are certain effects that come with this partnership. And in this partnership, and why do you call it an institution? I come from an entrepreneurial world before I stepped into the public world. In a partnership, the law is very, very clear. You have equal rights. And law is equally clear. I don't care which gender you are. The problem today is that our society is changing faster than the lawmakers are changing, and the understanding of the lawmakers are changing. Now it is on the onus of people like Sucheta ji to come back with a complete analysis, and that's exactly what we would want it to be. Because with the complete analysis, we would want to change the laws. In your book, you've written that, the divorce rates in India is 1.1%. But it is 1.1% of the people who are married. It is 0.01% of the population. And we are the lowest in the globe. Across the globe, the divorce rates are about 1.8%. And the state that we are sitting in, we are 18.7% divorce rates of the people who are married. And in urban areas like Mumbai and Pune, it is about 25%. So yes, is it a concern? Yes, it is a concern. Do we need to address it? Yes, we need to address it. But the fact is, how do we need to address this? First and foremost, it's a societal problem. And we need to address it at home. And not in the way we bring up our girls. We need to address it in the way we bring up the boys. And second, and the most important thing is, women need to pinpoint. Now, this Indradhanush hall is a government hall, right? It is made by the government. Government has maximum men, somebody who designed this hall never thought that a woman wearing a sari will have to climb up. Now when you put up your sari and climb up this stage, it doesn't look very graceful, but nobody thought about it. So now if I am in the government, I need to pinpoint and say, boss, this is not right. You have to make it for women. Because there are going to be more women. There is only one man here. Everyone else. And 3 of us in majority are wearing a sari. Now, that's exactly what I say. People, sentiments, emotions and society is much, much, much faster than the lawmakers. And we understand this. As policy makers, we understand this. But thankfully, we are a government which will say, okay, please come back, tell us what needs to be done. Now, when you say that IT folks do mutual divorce, and my problem with the lawyers, pardon me, all the lawyers, I'm also studying law, I've passed out first year, so I'm also going to be a would-be lawyer soon. But then, my problem with the lawyers, and especially lawyers in the family court, is because there is nothing called as no fault divorce legal law which is available in the Western world. What we do is we are criminalizing it even if we don't want to. Or maybe what we are primarily saying is that he was cruel to me. The problem here is that a woman, when she gets into this partnership, one, does she know her rights then? We are talking about counseling. It is still emotional, physical, spiritual counseling. But does somebody legally counsel her? If I am in a partnership, what is the point? If I am getting an asset, which is a house, it is on the institution, right? So it has to be borne by both of us. If both of us are working, then we both put our money. If we are not, one of us are working at home and one outside, then it better be shared between the two of us. Now this is basic. Now these are the things with changing times we need to inculcate in the processes of marriage. Very simple. You know the amount of thalassemia cases that are increasing in India? Why? Because minor thalassemias, when they kind of marry, the child is a major thalassemia patient. Now, because we do not believe in pre-marriage counseling, because we don't believe in pre-marriage checkups, medical checkups, it really does not happen. Because it is not there in our mindset, it is not there in our society. So yes, coming back to divorces, see, I personally feel this. Exception can never be a rule. And every individual, every marriage, every partnership is individual in its own aspect. So it is very difficult as a lawyer to kind of say that, okay, this is the history, this is the rule book. No, each case is different. I personally feel that, you know, when adultery in Joseph Sign and versus Union of India, when adultery was decriminalized, and yet it was and it is still a ground for divorce, the message was very clear that yes, adultery is happening, but you cannot stand it and you want a divorce, you stand up and say, this is why I need a divorce, and it will still stand, we will still stand by you. Question is that, okay, one last thing that has been discussed quite as much is about men's rights. And I think Vivekji said it, I have been wanting to say this for some time. For law, gender does not matter. Law is equal for everyone. And it should be equal for everyone. But the fact is, the knowledge of law is not equal for everyone. So let's understand this, that as parents, as aggrieved parents, when you go to a lawyer and the lawyer teaches you that you cannot get divorce any other way and you can't get revenge any other way. One, delay the process. In any case, if you delay it, the judge will delay it further. The processes will be delayed further. And do XYZ things. Now there are multitude of cases like this. So where I stand at a center of center as a centrist, there are only three things that I can say. One, I firmly believe in the institution called marriage. But the face of this institution is changing. The shape of this institution is changing. And so are the men and women. It's unfortunate that as women also, we are only bringing up boys. And boys in a marriage, you need men in a marriage. Neither girls nor boys. You need men and women who can adjust. Now, when you are doing second, a lot of people here said that yes, pre-marriage counseling has to be mandatory. Yes, it has to be. But one of the things that has to be told to both men and women is that it is important that we compromise. I compromise with when I used to run a startup, we were 900 people. You think I have never compromised with my boss? You think I have never compromised with my subordinate? You think I have never compromised with my maid servant who works for me? I pay for her. I do. She doesn't turn up. I have an important meeting. I have to go and she has not come. So I call her, no, you come for 1 hour. I will put the switch on the machine. So I always tell this to other women who meet me, who are facing trouble in their marriages. I always say this. मेरे अपने पेट से निकले हुए बच्चे कई बार मुझसे अग्री नहीं करते हैं. कई बार क्या, अधिकतर समय मुझसे अग्री नहीं करते. तो दूसरे के पेट से निकले हुए बच्चे से मैं कैसे एक्सपेक्ट कर सकती हूँ कि वो मुझे 100% टाइम अग्री करे. So the idea is very, very clearly. Sometimes you agree, sometimes I agree. And this partnership is what is marriage. And I still feel that marriages are one of the most beautiful things. But yes, because we are talking about why do marriages fail, one of the most important reasons, and I will list 5 of them. One of the most important reasons is that women have advanced in our society more than men have. So women have seen the world, they step out, they mature fast, they have expectations of a different level, but men are still stuck 10 years behind. So we as mothers need to buckle up and ensure that men and we as partners need to buckle up. I think conversation is most important, right? Second, why I see most marriages failing is interference. And most importantly, when there is a partnership, it is important that I have equal respect. And first rule of equal respect is we need to sit down and discuss our issues. Go back and see, okay, because we are talking numbers, let's, I think Ramaji spoke about 498 and acquittals. We also have numbers of false 498. False 498. And the best thing that you need to study is the number of women in urban areas who put 498 to rural areas who put 498. You know, you'll be surprised, but 69% of 498 cases are only urban. Does that click to you? But yes, on the other hand, this is also true. You know what is the most successful policy of women empowerment today proven by the Modi government? It is a simple policy called kerosene ban. So kerosene got banned and statistically all of a sudden, the number of rural deaths in women and fires got reduced. The kerosene was banned for certain different reasons, and policymakers never understood that the fringe benefit is going to be that women could now no longer be so easily set on fire. Do you know that 60% of fire cases or accidental fire cases are not accidental fire cases in the rural areas? So these are also harsh realities, and the fact remains that we cannot have exception as the rule. So when we study data, we study the data to ensure and realize that, okay, so if this is the problem, first ban kerosene. So after kerosene, everything else that was there to ensure that acid attack is so easy, fire attack is so easy, were banned legally. Third, and again extremely critical point, is in a partnership, why I personally feel that marriages are failing is because earlier on, when marriages used to happen, was a gullible age. Today, when men and women are getting married, then the age is not gullible. So compromise becomes slightly difficult. And hence there is a need of pre-counseling. Pre-marriage counseling, which talks about the fact that you will have to compromise. It's not going to be that easy. And trust me, we all compromise. Fourth, and this is only for the women. Women cannot be empowered because women are already empowered. They have the power within. I have never seen my father deciding his shirt on his own. He always wore the shirt that my mom pressed and kept on the bed, that this is the shirt he's going to my schools, the meals that we will carry, my tiffins, everything was managed by my mother. So my mother was empowered, she was a housewife, and I still firmly believe that the products, the companies, the enterprises that I made has never been better than the product that she made, because she made me. And last but not the least, for the men. For the men, women are not fighting a battle. And for you, Vivekji, women are not fighting a battle which is man versus woman. I am fighting a battle for equal opportunities. I am fighting a battle which talks about the fact that if I am successful, you as another man or maybe another woman can't turn around and tell me that, okay, so who looks after the children? So it is these questions from the men that we do not want. This is equal opportunity. Equal opportunity in front of law, equal opportunity in front of the society, equal opportunity in ensuring that I get rest as much as you get rest. Equal opportunity in saying that if I have given childbirth, you are still responsible for growing up the child, because it is also an asset which is equally shared between you and me. And hence I firmly believe that there needs to be more that needs to be done by the men, the women, the society as a whole, and absolutely by the lawmakers. But we need the right data, but we cannot lose hope, because India is not a society that can be characterized by statistics. We have always failed statistics. We are a society which stands between individualism and collectivism right at the center. We are a society that stands between socialism and capitalism right at the center of the matrix. Because in India, we believe that what I bring to the table is my individual effort, and that's exactly what I bring to the partnership. To the partnership, I bring my value system. And when I marry a partner, when I marry a person, when I marry a man, I'm marrying somebody who understands that I will come with my pluses, my minuses, but what I will do is add value to what he does not have. Without me, he cannot think of that growth together. That's why partnerships happen. Otherwise, there are proprietorships in the world, right? But partnerships happen because we need to complement, and that I feel Indian society understands the best. हमारे लिए तो वसुधैव ही कुटुंबकम है, तो जो अपना कुटुंब है उस कुटुंब को पकड़ के रखने की जिम्मेदारी एक जिम्मेदार व्यक्ति के पास तो होती ही है, लेकिन when me turns into we, that is what is a successful marriage. And I personally feel that more the we is understood between the man and the woman, I think that is when the right kind of equality will happen and the right kind of success in marriages will be seen. Thank you so much.
Does anyone from the audience have something to share? Manoj?
Can you speak loudly?
Yeah.
Go in front.
We will.
I can hear him from 2 districts.
So,
Please come in front. Please, don't worry.
I myself have seen 2 divorces in my own family, and I believe divorce has something more to it. Sometimes it really happens that my brother is a good person, my sister is a good person, but the first marriage didn't work out. Yet, it is because people are incompatible, and that is something that the law still does not recognize. So we need to understand that now, after the second marriage, they are doing very well, both of them. So the unfortunate way of looking at divorce is something that is wrong, is something that we should not accept. Rest of the world, it's another extreme where they get married and divorced so many times they don't remember how many times they got married. So that's a different extreme. Here, divorce is so difficult that most of the times people live in abusive relationship because it's difficult to get divorced. The second thing I would like to talk about is misuse of women-centric law. Though I'm not an advocate, I am an evidence expert, and I come across many cases related to people, and I see that there is heavy misuse of gender-centric laws by women. Now, statistics are difficult to know because many times she's genuinely facing a problem, many times she wants something, she doesn't get it, she's misusing the law. We cannot deny that men's rights are also violated. Yes, the society is still men-centric. There are lots of places. Most of the times, women are not being treated well. But at the same time, many empowered women misuse the law is an equal truth. Yes.
So the focus of our study is, like I said, proactive and preventive. So the cases which I have analyzed, I have seen that lot of root causes of that failure of marriage are before the marriage itself. Lack of proper decision making, lack of expectation setting, hidden things, knowingly, unknowingly, fears, or old beliefs that बाद में accept कर लेंगे, the person will succumb, शादी के बाद कुछ नहीं कर सकते, बच्चे हो जाएंगे तो सब लोग भूल जाएंगे. So I want to know that from your experiences, lot of other than this is the actual, the matrimonial fraud which Vaishali you handle, right? That in first place itself, that is not done with a good intention. So can such cases, the genuine cases where lack of expectation setting or all those things, if they're handled, can the success rate be improved? Can we have some solutions where the root cause of the marriages are before the marriages, if they're handled well through proper decision making and guided thinking and ensuring that everything is considered and then right expectations are set? How many such cases are you seeing? Because I spoke to many women, they said, okay, हम लोगों ने ठीक से चौकशी नहीं केली, we were seeing the red flags, they gave us wrong information, educational status, policy status, job status was hidden or wrongly told. So can these cases be, if they are handled before marriage? How many such cases are you seeing, Vaishali?
Thank you, Shweta, for that question. So, when I got my first matrimonial, I don't even know whether to call it a matrimonial fraud case, but as a larger definition, let us say when a man and a woman meets online with the intention of getting married, not with the intention to date, but maybe on a matrimonial site, so that the further intention is to maybe know each other online and then meet offline and get married. So the expectation is set that the ultimate result is going to be marriage. So that is where I'm coming from. So when I handled the first case many years back, this lady had over a period of time transferred about 45 lakhs to that man. And I was so angry with her when she was talking to me. She was all broken and she had brain fog. She could hardly speak. She was, palms were sweating. She was very nervous. And she said, so I said, from where did you have so much money just to be able to transfer? So she said, I had just recently sold an apartment and actually that money was parked because it was to be used for my son's education, but I did this mistake. And over a period of time, even I have matured as a lawyer now from where I started, now I realized my reaction was wrong because even I had indulged in victim blaming. Because I could not fathom the idea as how can a medical professional who she was, single, wanting to get married, could have indulged into an act so stupid, right? We all think how stupid. But all the women that I have met afterwards, maybe about 25, and without any exaggeration, all have been highly qualified working professionals who have succumbed to this. So root cause analysis, there's so much for you to do. What I think and analyze every time when I talk to these women, one is it is a targeted fraud. So it means that the women have been targeted. So there has been a lot of data that has been collected by those scamsters, which are extremely sophisticated syndicates who are operating in that. So they are extremely smart, equipped, and also have a great understanding of women's psychology, of how the society works. So that is where it all starts from. If I look at it from the victim side, whatever I've spoken to all these women, most of the times this extreme one societal pressure of even the family wanting her to remarry, the extreme loneliness of the single women, which happens because of you and me, because we have held marriage as a sacrosanct institution and that ultimate happiness lies in a married life, which means single women are by default unhappy. So for her to get into that definition of a happy woman, she is going to all forms of these lengths. And as I said, this loneliness is because all our institutions are couple based, if I can say, or family based. There are very few places where single women find peace, dignity, respect. They're always looked at as, bichari. So this is a great driving factor for them to look for a partner. Second is, as I said, there are extremely sophisticated people who are indulging in this crime. What does even like a highly qualified, supremely intelligent woman wants to hear is those soft words. And she wants somebody to hear her. Somebody who will give her a lending ear about, her problems, difficulties at work, how she has to deal with people, society, parents, children, all of that. And he is trained to do that. He is trained to do everything that a woman expects from a man. And that is the second trap. And the third I feel is empowered women have another mental condition that now because I have the money, so what, I can support him. Because that's another form of empowerment. So in the earlier time, and all these women who have been targeted are women having money. So women who are single, either divorced or unmarried, working women having money. Which means somewhere even that characteristic has been exploited by the fraudster, that okay, you can also, okay, even I can support you, that's how even my self-worth, how I define my self-worth, that I'm going to support the man in my life, and so what, because that is where equality definition is now changing, right? Women have done all of this, and they have been I won't go into detail because there are a lot of complexities when it comes to the cases. It's not just one, and it's not just over a period of 1 month or 2 months. These are the way child grooming happens. It's over a period of time where the emotional investment of the woman is really, really very high. There is emotional investment. Sometimes there is sexual interaction that happens, intimate images get shared, and the complexity just builds up. And over a period of time, she not only feels emotionally trapped, otherwise also she feels trapped because she's already transferred some money. There are some intimate images also already in his hand. So from all sides, she's feeling that there is no way out. The problem with these cases, which I had earlier also said, is there is no matrimonial law which becomes applicable. No domestic violence because there is no domestic relationship. Women have lost money. So if I go to the police station, the first thing, the way I did, I'm guilty of that. For the first case, my reaction was of anger. And I felt, how stupid can this woman be? That is what the reaction is at any police station. Acha, itne paise the aapke paas. Acha, aise de diye. So it's almost a laughing stock. And she goes to another level of trauma for that. People around her also, they are blaming her for this stupidity, for loss of money. Children are blaming her. So it's really, I think sometimes it's worse than, going through a divorce, because you don't even have the sympathy of a woman going through a divorce. And there is so much of defamation that, so most of the times women don't report. He said, chalo, theek hai, itne lakh rupaye gaye, but I don't want to report, I just want to come out of it. So this is a reality. Much work has not happened on it. Reporting is very low. If I am talking of 25 cases which I have handled, there are 2,500 cases which are happening for sure. I don't have statistics and data, but I have a feeling that, there's so much happening out there that women are not reporting for all these various reasons.
So, can I add? So I'll give you the societal and the legal aspect for this, right? And let me give you another perspective for this. And your question is very nice. So first, societal, let's look at it in a very societal manner. In the society, I'm pretty much against this word called ardhangini, because this half thing, the whole feeling of, a man can complete you. And that is why it is important, marriages are very important, is not right. और अगर आप हमारे बुजुर्गों से बात करोगे, if you talk to the so-called experts, they will give you the example of Shiva and Shakti and why Ardhangini came into being, right? But we need to understand that Shiv was a different form and is prayed to in a complete form. And Shakti with all her her power was a complete form, right? So it is, marriage is an institution that we need to teach our young girls that 1 plus 1 will come together. You are complete. So there has to be a me, a you and a us. So let's be very clear on this. Now what does it translate to a legal terminology? Earlier on, India was focused on arranged marriages. Now in arranged marriages, because we were socially active, we were living in villages, it was more interactive. Parents after a certain age had a lot of relatives that were connected. So it was easier to get a match whom you knew everything about. Right? The first of the online frauds in marriage, where did it happen? It happened in Punjab. Because most often than not, the people in Punjab were settled in Canada, and then when they would do a matrimonial site here, most of these kabutar agencies would also catch hold of wives which would go to Canada and maybe couple up as a maid, because getting a maid in Canada or in the US was very, very difficult, right? But to young parents, the society is changing, because today parents are not so social, and hence the only retort for doing an arranged marriage, if your child turns around and says, now I don't have anybody for marriage, so the only retort to a arranged marriage is an online platform. So should we need to have laws? Because there needs to be laws. And should there need to be an audit? Because everyone sitting here, we all know that social media is not real. Reels is real and real is real. So like social media, how you make up a good Instagram story and everyone looks very happy and everyone looks very beautiful and everybody is only roaming around the entire world. Exactly the same thing. Online, when I am giving an ad for my own child, I will definitely not say that, oh, he doesn't tidy up his room at all. So this is where system of audit and system of pre-counseling has to be mandated. Now, unfortunately, as Vaishali ji rightly said, Punjab now has laws that whenever there is an NRI village, there are state laws which talk about it. But across India, though Shadi.com became a unicorn business, yet there were no laws that followed back. And this is what is real empowerment of women, because this is where women get caught. And these are educated, self-sufficient women who get caught because there is no one regulation and there are no ways to audit it.
So मला एक जरा प्रश्न आहे हा, तुम्ही जे आता सांगितलं ना, तुम्ही आता आपण जे काही चर्चा करतो आहोत त्याच्यामध्ये बायकांवरती खूपच आपण फोकस केलेला आहे. मगाशी मेन्स राईटचा विषय येऊन गेला ओझरता, पण तुम्ही जेव्हा आता तुम्हाला चौघींनाही मला हा प्रश्न आहे, चौघांनाही, 3 वकील आहेत, तुम्ही काही मला वाटतं सामाजिक काम करत असाल किंवा शिकता आहात, तर तुम्हाला चौघांनाही मला हा प्रश्न विचारायचा आहे की तुम्हाला तुमच्या ह्या सगळ्या कामगिरीच्या वेळामध्ये पुरुषांचे प्रश्न समोर आले नाहीत का? आणि तुम्ही जास्तीत जास्त बायकांवरच फोकस करून बोलता आहात. ठीक आहे, आपण एका पितृसत्ताक व्यवस्थेमध्ये राहतो, ते तर सगळ्यांना मान्यच आहे, अमान्य काही नाही. आणि मेजॉरिटी एक्सटेंटमध्ये अजूनही मुलींना डावलण्यात येतं शिक्षण देण्यामध्ये, आणि अर्थातच पुढच्याही कालावधीमध्ये ते डावलणं येतच. पुरुषाला पुरुष असल्यामुळे जन्मसिद्धपणाने तो सहजरित्या पुढे जातो, हे अगदी सगळ्या समाजामध्ये असंच्या असंच आहे. पण तरी सुद्धा बायका काही पुरुषाला कमी नाही कळत.
बरोबर आहे तुमचा मुद्दा. I'm sure we all will try and answer this. So definitely, as Vivek ji had very rightly said, the laws are equal for everybody. But now there is a concept also of what is equitable, and that the equitable part was taken under consideration when some laws were made specially for women, because historically for all these years together, women were at the receiving end. So there are exceptions, men are at the receiving end. If I have to talk about my own practice, and especially the matrimonial frauds that we are talking about, I don't come across cases where men get drawn into some form of a fraud because of a promise to marry. When do they come into some form of a fraud? When there has been sexual intimacy, and when the woman has actually lured him into some form of a sexual act and there is extortion. I get lots of cases where the recipient is a man. I don't get these cases where the recipient is a woman, where there has been a sexual intimacy and she has been lured into getting into some sexual intimate act online. This actually reflects a lot on still how men and women function. For women, marriage is something which is sacrosanct. Sex comes along with it. Again, I don't want to generalize. Times are changing, generations are changing. Younger people would want to explore that in a different manner. I am conscious of all that. But if I have to take a larger view, still, even today, why are we still talking of women's problems, and you still see a lot of programs still happening about women? Because we still don't have equal laws. And a very classic example of this is when a woman chooses to walk out of marriage, she does not walk out with 50% of the property, of the matrimonial property. And because of this inequality or inequitable distribution, women are quite choiceless in a bad marriage. And because, again, historically, men always have had the opportunity to education, opportunity to work, opportunity to be a breadwinner, whether he likes it or not. I'm sure there are so many men who would want to be a house husband, but society is not allowing you to be that. And they are actually pointing fingers at you that, oh, how bad that you're going to become a house husband. You know, I had asked myself this question when my daughter is still pursuing super speciality in her medical career, and whether she would opt for a house husband. I think it would work great for her, but I had asked myself this question, that despite all these lectures that I gave, would I be with open mind accept that? Because that's the gap, right, between the cup and the lip. So what we talk and what you do, there is a big difference. So we still are talking about women's problems because they are still at a much larger percentage than men. We are not denying that men don't have problems, but let's wait for the time when, you know, we need a panel to discuss men's problems. I am just waiting for that, let me tell you, where women are so empowered that men need a panel like this.
So historically, if you see the data of last 100 years, the crime or done against,
that's okay. आपल्याला माहिती आहे जुन्या काळापासून आपण ह्याच्यातनं सगळे रगडलेले गेलेलो आहोत, काय नाही असं काही नाहीये. पण मला अगदी जेन्युइनली वाटतं की बायका सुद्धा पुरुषांना चांगल्या छळतात. आज तुम्ही जे ऑनलाईनचं बोलतात ना, तर मुलांना पोरी सांगतात की तुझ्याकडे डस्टबिन्स आहेत वगैरे, आणि सत्य आहे का खोट्या नाहीत गोष्टी. माझ्याच जवळच्या मुलांमध्ये हे असे प्रश्न आम्ही ऐकलेले आहेत. तुझं सेव्हिंग किती आहे, तुम्ही ऑन डेट तुम्ही बोलता आहात की मला तुझ्याबरोबर लग्न करण्यामध्ये इंटरेस्ट आहे, तुम्ही पहिलेच विचारता तुझ्याकडे सेव्हिंग किती आहे, तुझे एफडीज किती आहेत, तुझे आईबाप काय करतात आणि ते माझ्याबरोबर राहणार आहेत का, त्यांना उचलून फेकून दे तिकडं. तुम्ही बायका असा प्रश्न विचारायला लागल्यावर, तुम्ही जसं मगाशी म्हणालात ना की आईच्या पोटातनं पोर येतंय, तर त्या पोराला पहिल्यांदा काय वाटेल तुम्ही विचार करा त्यावेळेला. आणि अशा वेळेला जसं बायकांना शिकवण्यात येत नाही की तुम्ही हे प्रश्नांना कसं हँडल करावं, तितक्याच पद्धतीने पुरुषांना पण हे शिकवण्यात येत नाही की तुला असा प्रश्न विचारल्यावर तू काय करावंस.
Exactly. So that's what I think you came late. So we discussed, so you know, mentoring, counseling, training, education, workshop is equally needed for all. But unfortunately today I see all programs, all mentoring, all educations, the NCW program, pre-marriage counseling is also done for women. In last 2 weeks we have met 2-3 organizations. Everyone is counseling only women. That is the biggest gap. But the focus of our project is to see what can be prevented. So I'll tell you, one is about fraud, another thing is about illegal marriages. Like you spoke about NRI, right? In 70s my mother used to tell, and yesterday was also I was Simantini ma'am, we were talking to one of the psychologists. She said वो ज़माने में 80-90s में लड़के अब्रॉड जाते थे, 10 दिन 15 दिन के लिए आते थे, 15 दिन में शादी करके जाना है. And there is one economist couple, I think Sudha Murthy has written about it. They have rescued hundreds of women from US who were married from India, and when they were taken there, it was found that they already had a family. So this is actually, I don't know whether it is fraud or illegal marriage, but there is a book by Sudha Murthy. I think that book is about a different subject, Dollar Bahu, but I was told there is a couple, they are both economists, they have settled in US, and they were just working on rescuing those women back to India, and many times they were also pregnant. With respect to that, we were talking about, is there a way transparency, because I have heard many cases where especially someone was married, the other person doesn't know, and he has gone ahead and done the second marriage. Because there is no way to verify, and then we tried to find out, matrimony, how many marriages are registered, and can I apply, if I give a 500 rupees fee to government and say, Sucheta Dele, can you check her data, is she married ever? That accessibility is not there, the data is not complete. Same thing about divorce. I know many fraud cases where the person is divorced, but he has not declared that. He's got married to someone else as a first marriage. Someone in Northeast or Kashmir or Kanyakumari comes here in Pune. There is no way to verify his past status, about his past marriage or even past divorce. So can such system improvements be brought? It can be a paid service, it can be certain agencies doing that. In fact, we were talking about know your partner service. The most every woman I have spoken, most basic, वो बोली कि मुझे बताया गया कि मैं MBA कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन वो BCom ही था. उसने actually MBA में admission लेने का सिर्फ फॉर्म भरा था, लेकिन उसने बोला कि मैंने MBA किया है. Wrong educational status, wrong property status, wrong company status, wrong income, wrong property. Can this basic KYC, see, we are talking about prevention. See, because here, see this, our project is not about man, women or man versus, our research is about those people who want to still genuinely get married and their marriages have failed because of fraud or because of all these issues. How can they be prevented? I genuinely want to get married, but I did not have the complete thinking, my parents didn't have, so we did not do a holistic thinking. We missed on so many things, which we didn't discuss, and they have uncovered, they have got unfolded and uncovered after marriage, and then we have realized the differences. I am seeing hundreds of cases like this. I have seen at least 8 to 10 cases in last 10 years, Mumbai-Pune marriages getting cancelled. Because at least Mumbai ka Pune wa nahi aana chahta, Mumbai ke Pune. Second thing I have seen, one important case where people are discussing after marriage whether I want to have kids or not. I have seen dozen of cases in my whole childhood till now कि शादी किया भाग के parents के विरोध में, next day morning one of them has backed out because of the pressure from their parents or their inability to face the parents. Now the other partner who took the stance, जिसने हिम्मत दिखाई उसके साथ भाग जाने की, वो प्रॉब्लम में आ गए. ये सब मैं ये देख रही हूँ कि ये जो हम अवॉइड नहीं कर सकते हम नहीं कर सकते, जो अवॉइडेबल है, क्योंकि उसको अगर हम काउंसल करते, सिमुलेशन देते कि बाबा तुम में ये हिम्मत है क्या, तुम ये स्टैंड ले रहे हो, उसके लिए ऐसी पर्सनालिटी चाहिए, कल ये होगा, आर यू विलिंग टू फेस, आर यू विलिंग टू स्टैंड बाय. ये see, these are genuine cases according to me, because the causes of those are by default before marriage only कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ है. So we are talking about that. The project we have divided is into 3 phases: pre-marriage, during marriage, post-marriage. So in pre-marriage we are saying that I want to ask this to all of you: can a guided thinking, step-by-step decision and discussion making tool, which is completely unbiased, we are not influencing, we are not giving decisions, we are not telling what is right or wrong, we are telling that ये 1 lakh या 1 crore marriages इंडिया में हुए हैं, इनका demographic topographic ये है, उनके साथ ये problems हुए हैं. If it is matching with your similar cases, there is what are the challenges with the pilot profession, what are the challenges with when a person is abroad in merchant navy, you are doing intercaste marriages, either full-fledged marriages एकदम नहीं हो रहे तो intercaste. What kind of skills, qualities, competencies, outlook you need to have to sustain? Are you prepared for that? Can those who want to genuinely get married and they are failed because of such reasons, right? Can those be prevented by taking proper steps? And what incentives can we give? You know, we can mandate is a difficult thing, but can we incentivize? Can we motivate? Can we show them the carrot to get counsel? Because counseling is still considered as a taboo in India. I know some cases अभी भी वो मुझे counseling की ज़रूरत नहीं, because वो counseling को ही पहले इतना taboo है. Whereas so this self-awareness, personal development, building, I have done 8 to 10 self-awareness, you know, trainings as a part of my leadership programs in Microsoft, you know, Landmark Forum Education Society, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Tavistock Method of International. That gave me so much awareness about myself, and so those awareness are not there. People are not self-aware. When we took some pilot, people don't have preferences. When you go and we created a questionnaire of 84 questions, they were not able to answer because they have not thought about it. Many people, they don't know, you know, what are the consequences. I have seen hundreds of cases in one of the largest women community in Pune where there is a discussion post-marriage that my in-laws are forcing me to change my middle name. I don't want to change because now women are getting married at 30, they have established their man. मेरा LinkedIn प्रोफाइल है, ये सुचेता ढेरे एकदम अनीता कुलकर्णी बन गई, तो कैसे लोगों को समझेगा, राइट? सो और वो एक इशू है, ऊपर से मीन्स बाकी सब हजारों डॉक्यूमेंट्स चेंज करो, ये करो, बट दिस इज नॉट डिस्कस्ड. इट्स सिंपल थिंग्स. दिस इज अज्यूम, दिस इज कि उसने भी नहीं डिस्कस किया, इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं लगा, इनको लगा ये तो ऐसे ही होता है, नाम बदलना ये. द बिग कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इज बिटवीन ट्रेडिशन एंड लॉ. व्हाट इज ट्रेडिशन? रीत क्या है? ये रीत है, नाम बदलना ये रीत है, कोई लॉ नहीं था. अभी वी आर वर्किंग ऑन फाइंडिंग द ओरिजिन ऑफ दैट, बट पीपल ऑफन गेट स्टक विद दिस ट्रेडिशन वर्सेस लॉ. इफ दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम, कंफ्यूजन, which one should override? Law, right? What is the law saying? Right? So I am a fellow at Change.org. So we work with a lot of petitions. So my first question is, means we are trying to create a polls of 1000 questions. लड़की लड़के के घर शादी करके जाती है, ये क्या है? ये कहाँ से ओरिजिनेट हुआ? ये एक ट्रेडिशन है, राइट? इसका ओरिजिन क्या है? क्योंकि अभी ये भी डिस्प्यूट्स हो रहे हैं ऐसे कि लड़कियां बोल रही तुम मेरे घर आओ, तो ये क्या है? अभी बाय लॉ क्या है? कैन यू टेल मी, इज देयर अ लॉ? वेयर डिड दिस ओरिजिनेट फ्रॉम? 100 years ago, you know? So we want to start from there. Why should I go? I mean, I really cannot understand. I am educated, I am you know, financially independent, my parents brought me out very well, everything, for no reason. I am happy with my, why should I go to someone's family, change my name, then prove myself, get accepted there? Because I have seen that, okay, now you have to prove yourself, all your qualities, you have to prove yourself, you have to pass lot of tests, then get accepted. I have attended in my family whose niece was rejected. लड़की देखने आए थे क्योंकि उसने पूछा, वो झारखंड और ये हुआ ना, बिहार और झारखंड जब विभाजित हुए, मैं भी तब चाइना में थी, मुझे भी नहीं पता था ये हुआ, तो वो आंसर नहीं दे पाई. तो वो बोला था दीदी वो उसके बाद पैदा हुई, लेकिन मैंने बोला उसका शादी से क्या संबंध? वो मुझे बता रहा था कि वो आंसर नहीं दे पाई. तो इस तरह से उसकी परीक्षा ले रहे हैं. तो ट्रेडिशनली इफ यू सी, राइट, आई डोंट नो व्हाई शुड आई गो. आई मीन, and these kind of issues are also happening. So
can I quickly, because I have a hard stop.
I would also like to answer one question.
Yeah.
Suchita ji, who told you that only women go?
No,
Do you know? No. So do you know that in Kerala, in the Menons, there is a matriarchal society. So there, the men go. So let's understand this. Abhi मैम पूछ रही थी, and you know, I wanted to reply to her also. See, please understand that society, and I'm exactly telling you this. Society is changing faster than the lawmakers, and we need to basically ensure that the society that is changing needs to become what the law is. आपको किसने कहा है कि आजकल की नई लड़कियां किसी के घर ब्याह की जाती हैं? वो तो पूछ रही है ना, आपके पास कितनी डस्टबिन है? The fact is that we need to be sitting down. If I am earning and you are earning, then okay, who talks about कि मेरे घर में भी तो parents हैं ना? So the fact here is that I need to sit down and discuss the fact that boss,
if I am earning this much, this is what I will spend on my parents. And I don't need to be bothered about the fact that if you are spending that much amount on your parents. Now, please understand this. It's not about tradition, right? It's about the culture of the Indian society. Now, Indian society, you don't throw the child at 18 and say, now you're an adult, get lost. You take care of him till 26, 27, 28, sometimes 30, right? So parents do that. Now parents have not changed, but child has automatically changed. So when he comes back and says, oh hell with them, now these people, woman comes, she says, oh they need to be taking care of themselves. No, but the parent took care of you till you were 30 years old. That you have forgotten. In Western world, the parents don't stay with you because they throw you out at 16, 18, right? So you need to consider that. Now, considering the Western world, I can't define and say, oh, in India also we should not stay with the parents. See, chapter 23 or something in your book, there is this case of Tarini who was in Goa and married somebody in Nashik. Now, it was very simple. All she needed to do was a background check. When I keep an employee, I do background checks. Now, please understand, when I am keeping an employee, I am doing a background check. And if I am getting married, I am not doing a background check. What does that speak about me? Forget about the law. What does it speak about me? So, पुराने ज़माने में जब हम अरेंज मैरिज करते थे तो हम खानदान देखते थे, हम उसके 7 पुश्त देखते थे कि 7 पुश्तों में तो कहीं कोई कोई जेनेटिक प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है, 7 पुश्तों में जेनेटिक प्रॉब्लम होगी तो आगे माय चाइल्ड कैन बी ऑटिस्टिक, तो भी शादी नहीं करते थे. That is why all Indians are very smart, because genetically we have looked at 7 pushton of girls and 5 pushton of men and so on and so forth. So ideally, see, changing times and changing traditions, lot of things have changed. The ecosystem has changed, but just train बदल दी आपने, लेकिन पटरी बदली क्या? आप ले आए वो सुपर स्पीड ट्रेन, लेकिन पटरी आपने बदली नहीं. तो you think it's going to be a success? It cannot be. So the जिसके ऊपर चल रहा है ट्रेन, वो तो आपको देखना ही पड़ेगा ना. So these are, you are right, absolutely right. We need to think in the direction that you are thinking. But these questions are wrong. What I didn't like in what I loved about your approach is that yes, there needs to be equality, there needs to be success, there are problems pre-marriage and so on and so forth, right? But the approach कि मैं क्यों जाऊँ? अरे मैं क्यों नहीं जाऊँ? पहले क्या होता था कि the wife was a dependent, she was completely dependent on that family, she was not working, तो obviously वो उसके घर जाती थी because he was the provider. And he provided for her everything. So इसलिए हम उसके घर जाते थे because मेरा घर उसका घर मेरा घर हो जाता था. और सासू माँ चाबी निकाल के हाथ में देती थी, बेटा अब से ये तुम्हारा घर. Has this remained the same? No. So that's what. That is why the regulations need to follow. We need to ask the right questions and we need answers to those right questions. I have a hard stop, so you will have to really excuse me. I would have loved to hear what the lawyers have to say on this, but I'm only going to hear Ramaji and then you'll have to really excuse me. Thank you so much.
डिवोर्सचे जे कायदे आहेत तर ते सगळ्यांसाठी सेम आहेत, त्याच्यामध्ये बायकांसाठी वेगळे आणि पुरुषांसाठी वेगळे असं काही नाही आहे. त्यामुळे जो ट्रॉमा बाई जाते डिवोर्समधनं प्रोसेसमधनं जाताना, तोच ट्रॉमा पुरुषांना पण होतो. एक्सप्रेस करण्याची पद्धत वेगळी असते. आता तुम्ही जे म्हटलं की आजकालच्या मुली वेगळे वेगळे प्रश्न विचारतायत, डस्टबिन किती आहेत वगैरे वगैरे, मला ह्याच्यातून 2 गोष्टी दिसत आहेत की मला आठवते माझी आई मला सांगत असताना की माझी आजी आत्ता असली असती तर 104 वर्षाची असली असती, पण तिने जेव्हा तिच्या एका मुलीचं लग्न केलं तर ती साताऱ्याला जाऊन ते घर कुटुंब बघून आली आणि मग ठरवलं की तिथे मुलगी द्यायची का. म्हणजे त्यांनी जेव्हा म्हटलं की आमचा मुलगा बँकेत काम करतो तर ती बँकेत जाऊन आली की खरंच हे तुमच्याकडे काम करतात का. आणि त्यावेळेला अनेकांनी म्हटलं की अगं असं काय करतेयस, एवढा पण विश्वास नाही का. ती म्हणाली मी माझी मुलगी देणार आहे त्या घरी, मला खात्री केल्याशिवाय मी नाही देणार. आता हे पूर्वी पण आपण करतच होतो, आणि आता जर मुलांनी किंवा मुलींनी हे प्रश्न विचारले तर मला त्यात चुकीचं काही वाटत नाही. इनफॅक्ट त्यांच्या एक्सपेक्टेशन्स ते सेट करतात आणि जेव्हा ते एक्सपेक्टेशन्स सेट करतात त्यावेळेला एकमेकांमध्ये जी होणारा तणाव आहे तो आपोआप कमी होतो. कारण का जर माझे एक्सपेक्टेशन्स मॅच न करणारा मुलगा किंवा मुलगी मला मिळणार असेल तर मी कसं राहणार आहे. कारण का कॉम्पॅटिबिलिटी हा इश्यू आहे आणि कॉम्पॅटिबिलिटी जिथे आणि इतका स्ट्रेसफुल लाईफ आहे आजकाल की त्या सगळ्या स्ट्रेसमध्ये घरी पण येऊन एक स्ट्रेस घेणं म्हणजे हे विकतचं दुखणं घेण्यासारखं आहे. आणि म्हणून आम्ही जे ह्याच्या आधी जे बोललो की प्री मॅरिटल काउन्सिलिंग हे गरजेचं आहे सगळ्या पद्धतीने. म्हणजे इमोशनली कॉम्पॅटिबिलिटी आहे का, इकॉनॉमिकली तुमची जी अपेक्षा आहे, तुम्ही ज्या स्टेटसमध्ये वाढला आहे तो स्टेटस तिथे मेंटेन होऊ शकणार आहे का, हे सगळं बघणं गरजेचं आहे. आणि जोपर्यंत ते मॅच होत नाही म्हणजे मी माझ्या ह्यानी सांगते, मी वकिली झाल्या म्हणजे वकील झाल्या आम्ही दोघांनी लग्न केलं, दोघांनी एकत्र पास आउट झालो होतो, दोघांनी लग्न केलं, 1 नया रुपया आम्ही दोघेही कमवत नव्हतो. पण आमचं फॅमिली होती आम्हाला सपोर्ट करायला. आणि त्यावेळेला माझ्या सासऱ्यांनी मला हा प्रश्न विचारला होता की त्यांनी वकिली नाही केली तर तू काय करणार आहेस. आणि समोर मी म्हटलं नाही, मला विश्वास आहे की तो चांगला वकील होईल आणि तो झाला. त्यामुळे तो मग आमच्यामध्ये काहीतरी त्याच्याबद्दल बोलणं झालं असेल आणि म्हणून मला तो विश्वास होता. आणि माझे सासरेच मला सांगत होते की तो नाही झाला तर तू काय करणार आहेस. तर त्यामुळे हे बोलणं, हा संवाद असणं हा गरजेचा आहे. पण तो कुठेतरी आजकाल मिसिंग पण आहे. मी जे तुम्हाला म्हणजे एक केस सांगितली की तो नवरा माझ्याकडे आला आणि तो म्हणतोय की तसं क्रुएल्टी नाही आहे पण मला दुसरा ग्राउंड नाही आहे. मी माझ्या बायकोला सांगतोय आपण म्युच्युअली डिवोर्स घेऊया, आपलं नाही जमत आहे, आपण खूप वेगळ्या विचाराचे आहोत, सतत खटके उडतायत आपले, त्यापेक्षा आपण वेगळे होऊया आणि आनंदी राहूया आणि मुलाला को पेरेंट करूया, तो खुश राहील जास्ती. आपल्याला सतत भांडत बघताना तो खुश नाही आहे हे तो नवरा त्या बायकोला सांगतो. आणि ती म्हणते नाही मी डिवोर्स देणार नाही. कारण का त्याचं कारण हे आहे की तिला माहेरून कोणताच सपोर्ट नाही. ती म्हणते मी जाऊ कुठे. आणि आज शेवटी ज्या पद्धतीने आपण एका घटस्फोटीत पुरुषाला बघतो आणि घटस्फोटीत बाईला बघतो, प्रश्न खूप वेगळे असतात बाईच्या समोर येणारे आणि पुरुषांच्या समोर येणारे. तिला तो सगळा जी अवहेलना आहे, टाबू आहे, डिवोर्सी असल्याबद्दलचं, सिंगल पेरेंट असल्याबद्दलचं जे चॅलेंजेस तिला आहेत तेवढे चॅलेंजेस पुरुषाला येत नाहीत. ते इझिली ॲक्सेप्टेबल असतात. म्हणजे छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टींवरनं बघा, पुरुषाला बघितलं की कळतं का होतं लग्न झालेलं आहे का नाही आहे. पण आज बाईकडे बघितल्यावर अपेक्षा असते ना, तिने टिकली लावली पाहिजे, तिने मंगळसूत्र घातलं पाहिजे, तिने जोडवे घातले पाहिजेत, मग कळतं. मग आजकालच्या मुली घालत नाही, अरे असं कसं तुम्ही घालत नाही. म्हणजे ह्या सगळ्या अपेक्षा ज्या आहेत त्या बदलल्या ज्या पाहिजेत, त्यांना काय पाहिजे, त्यांना काय करायचं आहे, तर ह्याच्याबद्दलचं डिस्कशनच होत नाही. कारण का आपण ह्याला महत्त्वच देत नाही. आपल्याला वाटतं ह्या छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टी आहेत म्हणजे काय करेलच की ती नंतर, काय हरकत आहे. म्हणजे आत्ता नसेल घालत दागिना पण नंतर ती घालेलच की मंगळसूत्र. ॲझम्पशन्स आहेत. आणि म्हणून ह्याबद्दलची चर्चा लग्नाच्या आधी होणं गरजेचं आहे. ही काही कारणं आहेत आणि त्याच्यामध्ये बरेचदा जसं वैशाली म्हणाली, आय टोटली अग्री, women don't walk out of a marriage with 50% of whatever has happened in the marriage, assets or liabilities. नाही होत तसं. आणि म्हणून मग त्यांच्या हक्कांबद्दल आपल्याला बोलावं लागतं. पण आजकाल त्याच्याबद्दलही खूप सेट रूल्स आलेले आहेत. आजकाल आम्हाला ॲफिडेव्हिट्स फाईल करावे लागतात ॲसेट्स आणि लायबिलिटीजचे. मग जिथे बाई जास्ती कमवते आम्ही त्यांना आधीच सांगतो तुम्ही काही मागू नका, तुम्ही जास्ती कमवताय किंवा तुम्ही ॲट पार आहात, नका मागू काही. नाही मागत त्या, कारण का त्यांच्याकडे इनफ आहे. पण जेव्हा नसतं, जेव्हा तुम्ही जे सुरुवातीला म्हटलं की लग्न झाल्यावरती मेटर्निटी नंतर कोणाला ब्रेक घ्यावा लागतो, बाईला ब्रेक घ्यावा लागतो. मग तिला परत नोकरी मिळतीये का, मग तिला परत नोकरी मिळत नाहीये तर ती कोणावरती अवलंबून आहे. मग ती अवलंबून आहे तर मग ते उपकार आहेत का तिचा हक्क आहे, हा प्रश्न आहे. ते मग उपकार नको आहेत ना. तिने ब्रेक घेतला तुमच्या दोघांच्या मुलांसाठी ना, तिच्या एकटीच्या मुलासाठी नाही घेतलेला. मग तिला तो हक्क मिळाला पाहिजे, ते राईट्स तिला मिळाले पाहिजेत. पण तो सन्मान मग तिला मिळत नाही. तिला ना ते कामाच्या ठिकाणी मिळतो ना तिला घरी मिळतो. मग कामाच्या ठिकाणी पण काम करत असताना असताना बाईला का हा प्रश्न विचारला जातो की आर यू प्लॅनिंग टू स्टार्ट अ फॅमिली? हा प्रश्न पुरुषांना नाही विचारला जात आणि खूप डिस्क्रिटली आजकाल विचारतात, कारण का HR ला ट्रेनिंग दिलंय की हा प्रश्न विचारायचा नाही. डिस्क्रिटली विचारतात, पण हा प्रश्न पुरुषाला नाही विचारत. मग मॅटर्निटी बेनिफिट त्या बाईला मिळतं म्हणून बायका नको असतात कामावरती. आपला जेंडर गॅप रिपोर्ट बघा तुम्ही काय सांगतोय तो. मग बायका नको असतात कामावरती, मग पुरुषाला का नाही मॅटर्निटी बेनिफिट देत तुम्ही? मी तर म्हणते मॅटर्निटी बेनिफिट रिलीफ ऍक्ट हा जेंडर न्यूट्रल करा, पुरुषाला पण द्या. त्याची पण जबाबदारी आहे की बाळाचा सांभाळ केला पाहिजे. ते करतील का नाही मॅटर्निटी बेनिफिट घेऊन मला माहिती नाही, पण मिळालं पाहिजे. हे ट्रेनिंग झालं पाहिजे, पण ते होत नाही. आणि म्हणून अजूनही आपण बायकांबद्दल बोलतोय, म्हणजे पुरुषांचे हक्क डावलले पाहिजेत किंवा त्यांना कमी ट्रॉमा म्हणजे होतो वगैरे असं आमचं काही म्हणणं नाही. कारण का आमच्याकडे येणाऱ्या केसेस या पुरुषांच्या पण असतात आणि स्त्रियांच्या पण असतात. पण तुम्ही राईट बेस्ड अप्रोच कसा ठेवता त्या केसमध्ये. आज मी जेव्हा माझ्याकडे पुरुषांची केस येते तेव्हा मी त्यांना सांगते, बाबा तू किती कमवतोयस, तुझी बायको किती कमवतेय, मग ती काही कमवत नाही आहे ना, मग तुला कायद्याने तिला दिलं पाहिजे. मग तू तिथे जाऊन भांडत नको बसू की मी देणार नाही. त्यापेक्षा तू किती देऊ शकतोयस हे तू सांग. म्हणजे कोर्टाचाही वेळ तुम्ही वाचवताय आणि तू तिच्या हक्काचा आदर करतोयस. आता हे सांगणारे वकील किती आहेत? कारण का मी जेवढं भांडीन कोर्टात त्या माझ्या क्लायंटसाठी तेवढी मी महान वकील. पण तसं नाहीये ना. कायदा काय सांगतोय हे जर तुम्ही तुमच्या आशिलाला सांगितलं तर ते तयार होतात द्यायला. का नाही देणार? जेव्हा आपण सांगतो की कोर्टात जाऊन तुला द्यावंच लागणार आहे, त्यापेक्षा तूच आता सांग ना, कॅल्क्युलेशन्स कर आणि सांग तू किती देऊ शकतोस, किती लागतात तिला सपोर्ट करायला. तर हा अप्रोच हा त्या सिस्टममध्ये काम करणाऱ्या लोकांचाही पाहिजे. मग ते काउन्सिलर्स असतील, आमच्यासारखे वकील असतील किंवा जजेस असतील. हा अप्रोच जर असेल तर भांडणं कमी होतील, डिस्प्यूटचे ग्राउंड्स कमी होतील आणि मग त्या केसेस पुढे पुढे सरकतील. पण ते होत नाही अनफॉर्च्युनेटली. म्हणजे आजकाल मेडिकल प्रोफेशनमध्ये सेकंड ओपिनियन घेतात तसं आमच्या इकडे येतात. माझ्याकडे कितीतरी बायका आलेल्या आहेत ज्या म्हणतात की मला त्या वकिलांनी सांगितलं की मी 4-5 केसेस तुम्हाला लावून देऊ शकतो. पण माझा प्रश्न आहे की तुला गरज आहे का बाबा 4-5 केसेस लावायची? तुला एका केसमधनं आउटकम मिळत असेल तर तू 4 केसेसचे पैसे का देणार आहेस त्या वकिलाला? इट्स अ गेम ऑफ इकॉनॉमी, ऑल सेड अँड डन, राईट? So we have to be conscious of everything that is happening around us in the society. We cannot just discard it saying ki are why are women asking these questions? Why not? Let them ask it and let the boys also ask these questions. की तुला स्वयंपाक करायला येतो का? आणि ती म्हणत असेल मला स्वयंपाक करायला येत नाही तर मग एकत्र शिका करायला. कारण का तू जशी 4 वर्ष इंजिनिअरिंगला घालवली आहेस तिने तेवढीच 4 वर्ष इंजिनिअरिंगला घालवली आहे. तिचं इंजिनिअरिंग 2 वर्षात झालेलं नाहीये, तिने तेवढाच वेळ घालवलेला आहे. पण वी डोंट कन्सिडर दिस यू नो अँड दॅट इज अ बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लेम इन आवर सोसायटी. आणि म्हणून स्त्रीचा अप्रोच आणि पुरुषांच्या अप्रोचमध्ये जो फरक दिसतो आणि अजूनही आपल्याला स्त्रियांसाठी बोलावं लागतंय, व्हेरी अनफॉर्च्युनेट. अँड आय एम ऑफ द ओपिनियन की जितके तुम्ही प्रत्येक गोष्टीसाठी कायदे करता, इट जस्ट स्पीक्स ऑफ व्हॉट काइंड ऑफ अ सोसायटी वी आर. वी हॅव टू बी गवर्न बाय लॉज फॉर एव्हरीथिंग. That is very sad, but that's a reality. That is a reality, ma'am. Unfortunately.
So just to clarify my point, the example which I gave was in the case where the woman is also married. So she's saying, why can't my husband then come and stay with me? Why I have to?
One second thing is with respect to taking care of parents. Even today, our research is not complete, but what we have seen with high level of data. Women are expected to take care of their in-laws, but at the same rate, men are not ready or to take care of the their in-laws. I saw a recent case where the husband had beaten his wife because उसने अपने मायके में अपने माँ को अपने सैलरी में से पैसे दिए और वो बोल रहा है मुझे पूछे बिना क्यों दी. तो हमने एक बहुत बड़ा फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट का सर्वे बनाया है. So basically, one thing is again law, but she was like openly asking. So then, what is this? I mean,
there is a law, that says that both the girl and the boy, the daughter and the son, have to take care of their aging parents. Yes. There is a law. Yes. 2009 साली आलेला आहे की तुमच्या वृद्ध आई वडिलांची काळजी, आणि ही फक्त जबाबदारी पुरुषांवरती टाकलेली नाही आहे, मुलांनी पण करायचं आहे आणि मुलींनी पण करायचं आहे. ह्या केसेस तहसीलदार समोर चालतात म्हणून त्या फार रिपोर्ट होत नाही, पण त्याच्याबद्दलचा सुद्धा कायदा आहे.
So Shweta ji has to leave. This is a small token, a startup called Practising Stories. They have developed perfumes around the theme of India. So all their perfumes have some theme. This is Parikrama. So the perfume, the aroma, all the things are, they have done a Narmada Parikrama. और उस परिक्रमा में उनको जो अलग अलग चीज़ें मिली, फूल, महुआ, उनके सब स्मेल सबको मिक्स करके उन्होंने ये बनाया है. तो ऐसे उनके अलग अलग थीम्स है. अयोध्या भी है, तो अयोध्या के गाभारे में जाके उन्होंने स्टडी किया कि वहाँ क्या क्या है, चंदन ये वो. सो वी आर प्रमोटिंग देयर प्रोडक्ट एंड स्टार्टअप एंड मेक इन इंडिया. सो दैट इज द रीजन वी आर गिविंग दिस. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I'm blessed. I am from Ayodhya, by the way. So thank you so much, Sucheta ji and Rama ji and Vaishali ji and Vivek ji. Thank you so much. After listening to Rama ji and everybody, all the advocates, I personally feel कि ये लोग भी बुलाते तो शायद मैं आ ही जाती, because they don't look that biased. And it's a good decision that the men and women are in good hands. Thank you for taking this break. I think they are speaking. ऐसा मत कीजिए please. Don't.
So Manjiri and me, we have designed a 94 question survey. Lot of points we have covered or already covered in that survey. So we are quite happy.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Shweta ji, you are lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we've discussed this issue threadbare. I think perhaps we should, call it a day. In case anyone else has any questions, they can speak to our esteemed panelists later on. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, and God bless.
So we have some snacks here. Maybe we can
Network a bit and have some snacks. Ronak, can you help? सबको देते.
लोक येत आहेत म्हणून थांबलो.